Welcome to Bologna, a truly vibrant city.
Welcome to Piazze d'Italia. What is Piazze d'Italia? Piazze d'Italia is a series of webinars that we're putting together as to feature every series, and within each series it's got its own piazza. And the concept of that is that people gather in the piazza as to be able to discuss what happened within the community and also within what happens throughout the world. So we're going to be, due to this fact that we are not able to get out and kind of stay within a confinement because of this pandemic, we are creating this series so that we could present our membership categories, and virtually they'll present themselves and their companies of what they do as virtually, like if you're going into a piazza and open up to their stores and do their presentation. But we're also going to be promoting the Italian brand. That's something that is that the core of the Italian American Chamber of Commerce, especially in Tampa Bay chapters, is to promote that. So therefore, our first meeting is going to be Piazza Maggiore in Bologna. Bologna is a city that has one of the oldest medical university in Europe. Within our membership of Tampa Bay chapter on it, we've created three platforms on it. And we're going to be featuring the first platform today, which is science and technology. With that spirit on it, we have a guest speaker with us today that is going to be talking about the COVID-19 and the impact it has in business on it. So we are proud to have Professor Guido Silvestri, a professor of pathology at Emory University in Atlanta. Also, the manager that is going to be presenting, the manager of the platform that's going to be presenting the platform, and is going to be together with a group of panelists, professional and doctors and scientists panelists. The program that is going to present is going to be presented by Dr. Santa Nicosia, is emeritus professor at the University of South Florida, Morsani College of Medicine. The panelists are going to be Dottoressa Francesca Vena, she's a research scientist, and Professor Ruggero Santilli, chief scientist. On the second segment of the today's webinar, we're going to go into the Piazza Maggiore and we're going to go visit the members that we're presenting it. And our guide, Marina Terracciano, she's a project manager of Italo-American Chamber of Commerce, Tampa Bay chapter. She's going to invite us, she's going to go into the stores of each participant members, and they're going to do the presentation. Hopefully you enjoy. Thank you.
Business has been in this business longer than me. So these are the two challenges that we have, right? So it's almost like navigating between two big rocks. You know, the ancient Greeks would have called it between Scylla and Charybdis. This famous metaphor. You know, you have a bad thing here, you have a bad thing there. You gotta find a nice way in the middle. I think steering the wheel, you know, has to be done by the politicians, but not by the politicians alone. It has to be done together with the business, financial communities, and together with the scientists, and the doctors and those who understand this pandemic better than anyone else. So this is the premise. I think this is the landscape. Santo, if you agree, that's probably the landscape around which we can frame our conversation. And I would let it to, you and those who are on the call, to ask questions or bring up particular topics for discussions. Some people want to talk about vaccines, serology testing, seasonality of the pandemic, other things. But I leave it up to you, Santo. I think I just wanted to give this 5 minutes so that we know what we're talking about here.
Here we go. Okay, better now. So that is excellent. I think the preamble, it creates a venue to many questions, maybe too many to come. The questions, they are both scientific in nature and also societal, economical, commercial. So I would like to start with the very first question from our panelist, Dr. Francesca Vena, who is a Moffitt. And Francesca, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead with your question, please.
Yes. Hi, good morning, everyone. And good morning, Dr. and Professor Silvestri. I am a research scientist at Moffitt Cancer Center here in Tampa. And I've been lucky to have the opportunity to be able to still working remotely and, catching up on papers, writing manuscripts and writing grant. I just submitted a grant today. So I'm lucky, but there are, as you said, people that are not as lucky in this pandemic situation. So the first question that I had was about opportunities for smart working innovation that would benefit the Italian business overall.
Well, thank you, Francesca. And first, nice to meet you. And congratulations sounds like you're doing great work there. This is the general challenge that we all have. Smart people take a challenge, take a bad situation and make it into something good. And that's the great divide, in life. A situation like this, we need to be able to see the opportunities and to take them. What I can tell you, a lot of the opportunities that I'm seeing in my two main hats, one as a NIH-funded scientist running a big lab operation, and the other one as a chair of a big clinical department, where we see, again, tons of samples. So I think the scientific operations really benefit from probably a new way of seeing the way we interact with each other. I think one thing that this pandemic is forcing a lot of us is to work, like you said, remotely, work in a different way. And I thought for many years that I was absolutely allergic to have meetings by Zoom or internet or computer. I hated those meetings. I thought that, to do something, you need to have, people in person. You have to shake hands. You have to, give a high five. You have to, share a cup of coffee together or a glass of wine or something. Well, guess what? Actually, you don't. You can have incredibly productive meeting like this, and you save a gajillion of hours of time, because I've been, I don't know if you're familiar with Emory University, but I've been running around like crazy. I've gone, to airplanes, for meetings that I could have done on Zoom, and I will do on Zoom. So this is a simple little thing, but I will certainly manage my time better. I think that forced me to just to be more open-minded, instead of like old-fashioned. In terms of of practicing medicine, I think we have to exploit, again, the power of technology and bring, what we call telemedicine, medicine at distance, to another level. And there are incredible opportunities there. So when you look at what is that, and Santo, again, you should pitch in, anytime, or chime in anytime. But the thing is that we are, we're practicing medicine, in a way that not always requires the physical presence of the doctor and the patient. I mean, there are things that require the physical presence, but there are a lot of things that don't require it. They can be handled differently, and that could save a lot of time for the patient, for the doctor, a lot of money, a lot of energy. And again, if we start seeing things that way, we could really, so the winners, the real winners of this crisis, as always, Francesca, would be the ones that are able to take, the difficulties and make them into an opportunity to do better. I can't tell you in other sectors, like the business of entertainment, the business of restoration, the business of, other things, I cannot tell you because I'm not an expert. But I can tell you in science and medicine, God, we're doing that already, and it's fun.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
So, yeah, I agree. In medicine and science, we've done this for a while. And like you, I was averse to technology for a long time. But now I enjoy it. So there are, at time of disasters, there are opportunities. And I think this may also apply to the world of business. Many meetings can take place, a decision can be taken online. Restaurants are delivering food to home via online agreement and so on. So everybody should look more at how to explore these tailored distance opportunities. I agree. So any other question from the audience on this subject? If not, I have another question for you, which is more on the scientific realm. We know that the viral load, I think, of asymptomatic carriers is probably somewhat similar to those of patients. So that brings a question, how can that affect the general public, and how can asymptomatic carriers should or can be managed in the workplace?
Yeah, this is a great question, Santo. And I have to tell you, one thing that I have discovered in the past 3-4 months that I really regret is how little we know about respiratory viral infections in general. So, for instance, let's think about other viruses that give syndromes of respiratory infection, from the common cold. Now, the viruses that give us common cold, there is something called rhinoviruses. There's something called adenoviruses. There are other viruses like coronaviruses that can give a common cold. And then there are viruses that give more sort of bronchial or bronchopulmonary infections, like viruses like the influenza virus, like the para-influenza viruses that are familial viruses, viruses like the respiratory syncytial virus, RSV we call it, and so on and so forth. Well, we know so little about how people shed those viruses. I was trying to look at literature on the rhinoviruses that are so common. Those are the ones that people get all the time, like 2-3 times a year. And there is almost no literature. We don't know if there are some people that shed virus for a month, some people that shed, because nobody cares. Nobody really did a systematic analysis. And that's what we're facing here. So this is basically a virus that often gives you nothing more than a cold, a common cold, or even not even that. Sometimes gives you a pneumonia that is sort of self-resolving. But then, in a bunch of cases, this is a virus that has, sort of a poisonous tail, it's like a scorpion, and gives you this cytokine storm, the massive inflammation with thrombophilic state, et cetera, et cetera. So now we need to know, because this is a virus that kills people more than the flu, kills people more than the parainfluenza, more than the common cold and the other things. So that's why we're left with those questions. How long can people shed? So there is a study in Korea. So in Korea, there is a study very interesting. They took all the patients that were healed from the infection, all the patients that had the infection and had at least one negative swab. And they decided to bring them back. Not all of them, they weren't able to bring them all back, but they brought back a few thousand of them, I think 3,000 or 4,000. And they found that about 2% of them, 2.5% of them, had again a positive swab. And of course, that positive swab wasn't that they were getting sick again, because these were people with no symptoms or minimal symptoms. But what it's telling us is that those were persistent shedder of the virus. So these are people that were positive, then were negative, and then were positive again. And they had no symptoms. They were not, none of them had any particular issues. So they were not like a problem for themselves, but they certainly were able to, we presume, that they were able to shed the virus. Now, they were not infected with a lot of virus, because in the ones that they tried to actually isolate the virus, as opposed to just amplify the genome of the virus by what we call the PCR technology, when they tried to actually grow the virus, they were not able to grow the virus. So probably these people don't have a lot of virus. They have a little bit of virus left, but we just don't know. I mean, it's possible that in some cases the virus hangs on for another month. I think the longest was, the average was 10 days, 10 or 12 days. But, in some cases was, of those, remember, 98%, they cleared the virus, they remain negative. But a couple of percent, 2.5%, continue to shed the virus, or to have the virus for at least, 10, 12 days. And at least one had the virus on for 35 days. Now, of course, in medicine, that there is variability, so we can't freak out. We can't say, oh my God, now we have to do quarantine of 40 days for everybody, because, we have to go with, what is the maximum benefit, right? But again, all this to say that there's a lot we need to know about those viruses. And I think one of the sad stories here is that we're paying the price that we did not invest enough in understanding how this respiratory viruses work. If we had studied more, probably we knew more now, and we had more resources. I mean, think about the SARS. SARS, the first SARS, 2003, it was a big scare. A lot of you remember, in China, and they had a flare up in Toronto. I was, at that time actually collaborating with colleagues there. Another flare up in Korea, and SARS, scared the hell out of everybody for a while, and then it went away. It didn't come back, and we stopped all research. We stopped vaccine research. Isn't that crazy when you think back? As a society,
That's humanity.
And maybe we would have had, a vaccine ready if we had studied a little bit more, Instead, we kind of stopped because, that's the, Santo, you know this stuff better than me. We probably didn't, investors were not interested anymore. Why should we put money on a vaccine for SARS that is a disease that is not coming up anymore, And that's maybe another thing that we need to learn, guys, from this situation.
This reminds of a nice book from, I forgot the name, Italian writer, called Homo Stupidus Stupidus. We don't think about things we should think more, and then we pay the price, like now. So sort of as a follow-up to what we were just saying, there is an issue also with the testing. Speaking of asymptomatic or negative carriers. What is the level of, there is a significant false negativity in our test, the PCR, I guess, test. Can you tell us something about working in the part of laboratory medicine?
Yeah, I mean, so the PCR is complicated as a testing. So again, we're struggling with understanding what are the real negatives here and the false negative. So the false negative is someone who, so call someone a false negative is only a retrospective call. You can't say, when you get the test, you just get the test negative. You don't know if it's a real negative or a false negative. What happens is then in some of those negatives, you get overwhelming evidence that the person has the disease because maybe it has fever, the chest X-ray picture, the CT scan, whatever. So we think the person has disease, and then we test again, and now this time is positive, and say, okay, that one was a false negative, right? Why there are false negatives? Well, sometimes they're just human mistakes. The swab is not done well enough, carefully enough. Sometimes you just don't. We don't know exactly where. Where exactly the virus is replicating in the throat and in the nose of these people. So it could be that you sample here and the virus is on the other side. So, And then the other risk, of course, is that something goes wrong with the assay. I'm sorry. And I think that really what we need to do is to understand, that those assays have limitations, and trying to explain to people that no assay is perfect, and that applies to PCR, applies to serology, applies to anything that we're doing,
Very good. Yeah, I agree. Ruggero, I think there's a question for Professor Santilli regarding vaccines.
I think then.
Hello, stop. I'm just looking.
Well,
Ruggero or Carla, you had a question regarding vaccine?
Yeah, we were just trying to unmute. Yes, hello. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, very well. Thank you. I think we are two people here because we are a team. He's the science part and I'm the commercial business part. So we can just both address what the issues that you just discussed, and some of the questions I had have been already answered actually by both of you. But I think that in addition to the vaccine, I think I would like to add the importance of to touch upon the fact that you said that there is not being enough investment in the research of vaccine, and I will say, and my husband can expand, that there is not being also enough research in the basic science that addresses how the cell, how the atoms, how all those components that are part of the virus and the medicine affect the overall field. So I don't think so that was this one part. And the question we had for the public also was, yes, the question that we had from the public was, there are about 30 experiments now, or 30 projects that are in Italy, especially the latest one that we heard was about Italy and Oxford. So there are research on vaccines, about 30 projects. So what would make a vaccine successful as opposed to another one? What are the components or the major aspects that you can address for the vaccine?
Yeah, so first of all, there are 70 vaccine candidates, not 30.
oh,
Well,
I'm just saying, because I was reviewing a position paper, by the IAS, on this. So there are 5 in clinical trials, 5 right now in clinical trials. The Oxford would be the 6th. They're starting taking the volunteers now, so it will be number 6. And then there are another 65 or so that are in preclinical development, so in either cell culture or animal models. One thing that I want to say is some of those producers are more vocal than others. So vocal with the media, with
right, of course.
I understand.
So, the fact that they are more vocal doesn't mean that their product is better than the others, So just a note of caution. So I know that some people like to go out there and say, "Oh, we have this great vaccine," and get the journalists and the camera and everything, and it's not that. But no, I mean, I think that it's a shame that we don't do more science. I don't know how else to say it. There's so much about viruses that we should, because now we know it, right? It's like we got Ebola, we got hantaviruses, we got Nipah viruses, we got Marburg, we got Zika virus, we got dengue, we got SARS-1, we got MERS, now we got COVID. We know, and of course AIDS, that also comes from animals. So we know that viruses will jump from animals into humans occasionally, and we know that sometimes those happens and we don't even realize, we get viruses coming in and out all the time and then nothing happens. and occasionally we got stung pretty bad, like this time, like with AIDS, like with Ebola. So we need to, I think it's amazing that we're not doing more research in really discovery research of taking pretty much all those animal species that are around us, of course, the bats seem to be a great reservoir of viruses, but it could be the squirrels, it could be the dogs, it could be anything, the monkeys in Africa or in South America, and really understanding, what viruses they have, and we have the tools now. We can do what is called metagenomics. We can take plasma or body fluids of these animals and sequence every freaking virus that they have, and it doesn't even cost them much. Probably with the, with 1 day of the invasion of Iraq, we had enough money to take out, all the viromes of every, mammal species that is around humans. And that creates, and we have the bioinformatics tools, we have the data sets, we can do that. And the reason we're not doing it is because, I hate to say, but it's because unless there is money for someone, our research doesn't start, so I hope now we're learning a lesson. What can I say? Santo, what do you think?
Yeah.
I think that we should all follow what we're just saying. It's very important. There's tremendous research can be done, and one or two planes may cover maybe 10 of the study very easily or more. But we need to be very smart in electing our representative Congress to be at least partially successful, I think. But I agree with you completely. Yeah. So time is running short. We have a switching subject. We have another question from you, and I will post to you from the audience. We know that Italian the diet, Italian food, it's great and famous all over the world. So the question is that, are there any health or lifestyle benefits which may be related to the consumption of imported or local Italian food during this pandemic, which may help, shall we say, build our health, our immunity, and so on?
Well, Santo, I got to be honest here, okay? If we want to make a case that Italian food is the best food in the world, I last night, I had 3 kids, 16, 14, and 10. Last night at 10, everybody was in bed, with my daughter. We made, focaccia, and we made, torta col formaggio, we call it, the crescia, like we call it in my region, in the Marche region, So Italian food is the best, I think nobody will argue with that. But I don't think we can make the case that it's going to protect us from viruses or other things, right? Unless we want to go into that sort of weird, parallel universe of people believing in natural medicine and naturopathy, holistic medicine. That stuff honestly makes me sick to my stomach. I'm not into that stuff. I'm for evidence-based medicine. I think that's what we do. So I think we should promote Italian food because it's great, because it's probably good for, metabolic things, the so-called Mediterranean diet, I think there is evidence that makes you better, especially for cardiovascular conditions, right? But I don't think we can make a point that it's going to make us stronger against the virus. It would be going into those, I just don't think that, we should flirt with pseudoscience because of that.
Yeah. And that's sort of corroborated by the unfortunate very high incidence of the virus in Italy these days.
Right.
Besides aging and shaking hands and kissing, hugging each other, right?
Well, the sad, to me, one of the sad things about this pandemic in Italy, and I really said, my parents died, passed away a few weeks from each other in 2018. And, in the Italian society, elderly are very close in so many families. They're close to their kids, grandkids. There's a lot of affection. They live probably a better life than elderly in many other countries, And I think that unfortunately in this particular case, it hurt them.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, so enough for the antioxidant. No, it's okay for cardiovascular, but we don't know for infectious disease. Probably not.
Right.
Okay, Francesca, you have a question? Is Francesca there?
Yes. Hi. So my other question was, how can a spread of SARS-CoV-2 be contained, or will the virus persist in the human population with a possible second wave of infection?
Okay, so we got three things in our favor, right now. One is that we have learned to social distance and prevent infections with personal protective equipment and other tools. So we have learned more to sort of diminish the spread of the infection. We also have another very important tool that is helping us, which is the natural immunity. There are a lot of people that are infected. So in the US, we passed 1 million. My guess is that probably there's like 5 or 10-fold more people infected. So we're probably talking about maybe having 10 million people in the US that had contact with the virus and have the antibodies. There's some projections from Stanford University, for instance, John Ioannidis and others that say even more, it could be the 10% of the US population. So every person who has antibody could act as a little barrier for the spread of the virus. So, and that can sort of reduce, what we call the R0, this marker of diffusion of a virus. And then we have a third good friend, which is the good weather. The going towards the summer, all coronaviruses, and in fact, all respiratory viruses, they don't like the summer. They all go away when it comes, April and May and June, and generally they come back, in December, January, February the following year. So I think we already see it in the curves, all over the world that the virus is retreating, is going away. I was looking at the numbers in Italy a moment ago. It's been the 17th consecutive day that the number of people in ICU units is going down. It's now down to 1,700. Used to be over 4,000. So the virus is retreating. And then there is one fourth factor that is kind of our dream. Is that the virus might also attenuate. Because obviously there are different strains of virus, and the ones that are transmitted by people who are doing well have a little bit more chances of being transmitted. They might have an evolutionary advantage as opposed to viruses that are more, making people more sick. So there could be also that sort of phenomena of relative, attenuation of the virus. So my hope is that it's going to go away. I think it's going to go away probably by, end of May, early June, in the northern hemisphere at least, where we go towards the summer. But then the big question, Francesca, is what's going to happen in, December, January, February. Is this going to come back? And I think it's a question. My guess I would say probably 80% yes. And then it's going to come back with the same virulence, or it's going to come back attenuated. How much immunity it's going to encounter? Meaning, how easy is going to be the spread? The first wave is always the worst, because there is no natural immunity. And then the other question is how much we have learned how to prepare, in terms of hospital organization. We had forgot, I think one of the other things that I've been thinking a lot, we forgot that kind of infectious diseases exist. We set up all our healthcare operation has been really set up for three things, cancer, cardiovascular diseases, and neurodegenerative diseases. That this is the three things that we set our hospitals for mostly, And we forgot that infectious diseases are different because they don't come like this, flat. They come in on a big wave. And also we forgot that infectious diseases hurt the hospital because they're going to infect the very, doctors and nurses. So we forgot about those two things, and then we got the so-called, overload of the healthcare systems, like it happened in Lombardia, like it happened in, in New York, unfortunately, And so I think that we need to be better prepared, as a society. Again, we need to have the capacity. We need to be able to, to switch. The same way we have 5,000, I used to be in the Navy, like the same way we have 5,000 Marines, that are 100% ready every second, to go and fight a war if needed. Well, we need to have probably 5,000 doctors and nurses that are, ready to be deployed and block, if there is another pandemic like this, and avoid what happened in New York, or what happened in Milan. So I'm trying to be optimistic, but a lot of this is it's up to us, to make the right choices.
I agree. And the compounding factor is that if you come back in October, November, December, January, you will come back at the same time that the flu virus is coming back. And that will be double jeopardy, for sure. So we have only 5 minutes left, and to take more of your time, okay? So I think there are some questions regarding perhaps the influence of the pandemic on the Italian business, on the exchange of Italian business, how to best prevent this virus affecting the Italian business, and so on. Ruggero and Carla, can you perhaps follow up?
Yeah, that was this question was from the audience, and I'm going to read it exactly. Italy has been one of the most affected countries during the coronavirus pandemic. How this pandemic will affect exchange of commerce within the Italian business community, and also there are any remedies or any advice that we could use to promote and sell Italian products and services in the midst of this emergency?
Well, I'm not an expert, so I don't know. I'm afraid that I'm not going to say anything particularly, useful. But I can tell you one little story. So I love Italian food, and one of the things that, and I used to go very often to Italy. Now, I mean, of course, the past few months I haven't gone, but one of the things I do, I always load my suitcase, with things that, I get there that I like, from biscotti and cheese and wine and aceto balsamico, and you name it. I usually go with 2 suitcases, one empty that I load when I'm there, and one with my clothes. So now I discovered that actually I can get those things on the web. I was able to get, this huge chunk of very high quality, Romano cheese, Pecorino Romano, and this big chunk of Parmigiano Reggiano, straight at home, and it was in perfect conditions. It was perfectly packed, perfectly, stored, and now I'm going to do more of that. There are amazing stores in Italy, bakeries, that do incredible things, and they don't ship. They're not very good at shipping. They're not very good at, making that extra step. There is a I don't know if I'm allowed. Am I allowed, Santo, to digress for a second? There is in a city called Ponte Valle Ceppi, which is very very close to Perugia. There is a historical bakery that is called Faffa. In fact, it was called Faffa. It's a Belgian name. It's a bakery that has been there for 150 years. And they make unbelievable bread, and cakes and all sort of things. And they do not ship. They do not, and a thing like that, if they, just learn how to use, of course it's going to be a niche, right? It's going to be elite market. Not everybody wants to spend, $50 to get a loaf of bread, but some people will do that, right? Once in a while. Or to get a panettone, or to get a cake of a certain. So this is what I think should be explored. To sometimes Italians are very conservative. If it's not the right way, I don't going to eat. Well, okay, you ship it, and maybe it's not going to be 100% as good as if you eat it, right outside the oven right there. But I don't know. I think we need to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more. And then we can actually flood the market, better than other places, other products.
So go ahead, Carla.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the question, following your discussion, is that small business in Italy, they need to be very, very, very careful what to do, because the online shopping will favor the larger conglomerates, business. Small business may be seriously affected, and they have to be really creative in how to capture a slice of market. Agree?
But I don't know. I mean, if you know, Santo, if you create like a consortium, you know, of those niche, local bakeries, you know, of wine products, oil, you know, aceto balsamico. I'm convinced, honestly. You know, my mom used to be from was from the area of Modena, near Modena. I'm still convinced that if you get, you know, the rich people of this world, you know, to try they're not the aceto balsamico, the one that you get, you know, but the traditional, you know, the one with the 12 barrels, you know, that you pass. If you get people to try that, they will spend. The rich people, and there are plenty of rich people in this country, they will spend $100, $200 to get a little bottle coming to their house, you know. It's just a matter of, you know, now sort of finding a way to get that message across.
With that word of wisdom, and we probably should conclude, the time is up, it's 1 o'clock. We'd like to thank, unless there are any other very pressing question, we'd like to thank Professor Silvestri for a wonderful execution and explanation of where we are and where perhaps we're going with this pandemic. And we wish him the best of luck in his study, research, and steering the great department. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti. Passiamo we're going to move from the serious part, which was the talk about COVID-19, to the more light and, if you want, hopefully enjoyable part related to Bologna. I only have a few minutes, so I'm going to start right away sharing my messy screen. So these are a few insider facts about Bologna, and you would wonder why, me being from Rome, I'm talking about Bologna. Well, I own a company with my family called Italian Days, and we do customized vacations in Italy, so I pretty much try to keep myself up to speed on every single part of Italy. So without further ado, let's move on. This is the logo of the company. Now, you probably know that Bologna, in the mind of Americans, is mostly known for bologna, which is mortadella, which is Bologna, as it is called in Milan. But Bologna is a lot more besides tortellini. And I know that somebody that has culinary experience, I understand a chef, is going to talk about that. So I'm going to skip on that and move on to other facts regarding Bologna. So one of the most important things is that Bologna is a UNESCO music city. Normally you have UNESCO cities locations like the Amalfi Coast, or Rome has 3 or 4 UNESCO cities. But in this case, Bologna is a UNESCO music city. So it's considered so important from the musical standpoint that UNESCO recognized it at worldwide level. And, one of the other things that is quite important about Bologna is that it's the place where the oldest university in the world, the Western world, was ever founded in 1088. It's a date I don't use in the US because probably they are not interested on anything that comes before 14 something. So this is another view of Bologna. And as I said, I'm going to talk about more unknown facts, although people from Bologna know this. This guy here was born in Bologna, and we're talking about somebody that is very famous in the US, Guglielmo Marconi. This is another person that was very famous in the US, if anything, for the movies, Medea. But you all know that Pierpaolo Pasolini is famous as a poet, a writer, a director, and an actor in some of his movies. And moving on, there's some of you that are into painting, you probably know who I'm about to mention. And this gentleman, it has the name of a famous singer, but he is not, I don't even think they are related. It's Giorgio Morandi. And this is one of his famous paintings. But, you know, it's famous all over the world. I believe the Metropolitan has some Morandi paintings there. Now, there's another thing that I want to share about the University of Bologna. There are a few people that I'm not printing here, but that you probably all know. Thomas Becket, Pico della Mirandola, Niccolò Copernico, Erasmo da Rotterdam, Torquato Tasso, e Goldoni. They all attended the University of Bologna. And among the famous professors at the University of Bologna, we have Giosuè Carducci. Anyone here from Italy knows that you had to study at least 2 or 3 poems by Giosuè Carducci, and Giovanni Pascoli, which of course was part of our curriculum as well. Moving on, I am passionate about movies and literature and paintings and economy and so on. So I cannot shy away from telling you that Pupi Avati was born in Bologna. He's a very, very famous director. Alessandro Haber, which you probably have seen working with Pupi Avati, is a very, an excellent actor. And Gino Cervi, I mean, who does not, I know we have people that probably have never heard because they're part of another generation, but from the names I recognize, they're a bunch of boomers like me, and you probably know who I'm talking about with Gino Cervi. Stefano Benni, who has not read Bar Sotto il Mare or Bar dello Sport? I mean, those are novels that are a must read. And of course, Raffaella Carrà. Raffaella Carrà is not only famous, is another very famous export of Italy. She is absolutely stellarly famous in Spain and all over Latin America. So she's a worldwide popular character. And of course, Alberto Tomba in Olympia, Tomba la Bomba. Yes, again, the young probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I understand. He's also an anchorman in the Italian television shows. And last but not least, who has not heard about Ferrari? You probably have also heard about Luca di Montezemolo. So, without further ado, and pull out the handkerchiefs, because this one is Pupi Avati for you. Check it out.
Bisognerà telegrafare a scuola che stiamo bene, che questo pomeriggio prendiamo il treno per rientrare.
Ma non dovevamo fare un giro per Firenze?
Fu la mattina del giorno dopo che arrivammo a Firenze, ma non eravamo felici. Sentivamo tutti che l'incanto ci aveva abbandonati per sempre.
Il regolamento prevede che prima di ripartire in treno per il ritorno si faccia l'appello.
Aldromanzi, Angeloni, Bartoli,
I'm sure that I'm interrupting the tears, but one thing I wanted to mention, this is another movie that was absolutely copied in That Poet Society. If you look at the dates, this precedes That Poet Society, and this movie scene is exactly the same tearjerk as That Poet Society. But Pupi Avati had some movies exported to the US, but he's not like as famous as Robin Williams and, you know, well, here the people don't talk about directors, so let's see if I can move on. And yes, and then the last stretch I want to dedicate to this immortal icon that was also featured in another recent movie, The Great Beauty. This is a remix that was created with her. Now you probably know who I'm talking about, Raffaella Carrà. Start singing, huh? Well, so as I was saying, it is a family business. This is my mom. This is I. Somebody says that my mom is my mini-me. It should be the other way around, but for some reason I came a little bit on the taller side. And it is a family business. Everybody's involved in my family with the Italian Days, and we've been in business for 17 years. We do customized vacation, heritage tours. We have many, many Italians that tell us, I was born in, and they say a fraction with 5 residents, and we find the history of the family, and we take them there. Lifestyle and you know, full immersion vacations in the Italian culture. And we are only specialized in Italy, and trust me, we have our hands full. And this is the part of my work life that I really adore. I'm counting the days for my plane. By now I have 5 credits with various airlines for tickets that I should have used to go to Italy.
That was very interesting. Thank you so much, Anastasia. It was unusual. So there's some things I didn't know, and I really appreciated the Raffaella Carrà bit. That was fun. All right, so now it's past lunchtime here, and probably almost.
I hope you're getting hungry.
Oh, we are, and because you know we can't talk about Bologna without mentioning food, and we have Sesto Ramadori, the Sesto restaurant in Pinellas Park, who has found a recipe that he can cook for us very quickly, and I'm very curious to see that. Are you on, Sesto?
I'm on. I'm here. Hi.
Okay.
This is my camera woman, Anique, my wife. And we were talking about adapting to the situation, and I want to do a quick show of what we've done to actually change a fine dining restaurant into a takeout. And we do a lot of donation work. So I'm going to switch the camera over, and I'll talk from the other side. So This used to be a fine dining restaurant with tablecloths, and we've turned it out into a system of sanitizing every single dish that goes out all the way down to the front door, which is locked off to regular customers. So adapting is the key word here, and surviving is definitely adapting. I mean, this is my fine dining restaurant. It looks more like a warehouse, but we put out good food and safe food for everybody out there. So we'll take you into the kitchen now, and we'll prepare a cotoletta alla bolognese, which is something easy and very fast for anybody to make at home. And I know Professor Silvestri was not here, but I did prepare something special for him, but hopefully he sees it on a future video. I am from the Marche region of Italy, and I wanted to tell Dr. Silvestri we make stuffed olives. So anyway, so cotoletta alla milanese is very simple. Your basic ingredients, of course, are veal, a nice pounded veal, flour, eggs, breadcrumbs. Maybe we can send out the recipe tomorrow. Basically, we're going to take the veal cutlet, which we have already pounded out. We're going to flour it. Egg it. And then bread it in a plain breadcrumbs, or if you have seasoned breadcrumbs, it's fine. And basically, you're going to take butter and melt it down in a pan. And the other basic ingredients are the beautiful and most important ingredients of Italy, I think, are Parmigiano Reggiano and Prosciutto di Parma, which is, you know, what makes this all come together. So give me a second for the butter. I'd like to thank all the esteemed professors and doctors and other speakers that spoke before me. It was very informative. And, you know, we hope we all get through this together. We pray for everybody in all our home countries. I'm personally from Canada, but my origin is Le Marche, Italy. So we're going to get this going. We're going to let it saute. Shouldn't take too long. So at the Sesto, we've been trying to help the community. I mean, today we delivered to the fire departments. We've delivered to Northside Hospital, and we're taking in a lot of donations from customers, which help us maintain our staff working. And, you know, so that really helps us. I mean, everybody's helping each other, and hopefully this government money comes in to help small businesses like us. So, like I said, we're trying to really hard to, you know, keep everybody employed. We've been able to keep most of our staff employed. So basically what you want to do is very simple. You know, cook your veal. Once you turn it over, you take your prosciutto and just lay on as much as you like. I mean, there's no, if you like prosciutto, that's great. Put a lot more. And then we're going to put our Parmigiano Reggiano. And if you have a lid for your pan at home, go ahead and put the lid on. It should take only a couple of minutes. And basically, it's simple, it's fast. You can buy all the ingredients from thesesto.com. We did start a grocery online, you know, so everybody can buy ingredients from us whatever they want. So. The other thing you can do is create a little sauce with a little bit of beef broth, and you know, do a reduction beef broth and put it on top. Maybe put a little tomato sauce on your plate, and it's very simple, easy to do. And that's it. I tried to do something simple where everybody can see a simple recipe. It's similar to a veal milanese, but we're putting the prosciutto and the parmesan on top. So, Marina, thank you. I want to thank everybody, and I hope I made up for some of the more important time that was used earlier on. So, thank you, and let's keep Italy strong. We're all here, and arrivederci.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sesto. Do you want to mention the fund that you set up for the first responders?
Well, we started a fund. We call it Pay It Forward, and we pay 30%. Basically, we give a 30% discount to anybody that is buying food for a certain organization, or if they put it towards a fund, we give a 30% discount. We've done Ronald McDonald House, we've done Sunstar ambulances, police departments, like I said, fire department. So we're out there helping people. Like, you know, God said, if you help yourself, you know, that's great. If you help others, well, it's even better. So, you know, that's what we're doing, and my staff is amazing. So, anybody that wants to donate, you know, we're always welcoming donations.
Didn't hear you.
Eccoci qua. Buon appetito.
Oh, grazie.
Ciao Marina, grazie.
We're all in this together, and Sesto has set up a fund for first responders. Bella's is giving 30% off wine. Donatello's has a 20% off on gift certificates. Osteria has a 20% off any order, and free meals for first responders at the other location, Malia Buela. Dolce Vita, 20% off. Genuino, some freebies. And Villa Verde offer one dessert with the purchase of 2 entrees. Buon appetito. Stage 2, Alessandro Tezza. He is a Bologna native, and he has a business that's called AA Lifestyle, and helps entrepreneurs coming from Italy to Florida. Are you there, Alessandro?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Marina, for introduction me. I want to thank you for all the doctors.
Ciao Alessandro.
I'm Mario. thank you for all the doctor and professor before me. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. So before me, there was Anastasia and Sesto that introduced you Bologna and how to cook in Italy. And now, as I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I wanted to explain you more numbers about the city of Bologna. So I go to share my screen, and I think that you now can see. So what I want to speak with you today, some numbers. So for start, I want to introduce you Bologna as a municipality city, that is the city of Bologna. And there is something that we call metropolitan city of Bologna that included 55 municipality and have around 1 million of population. So in the city of Bologna, there is living now around 392,000 people. This was the graphic that show you how the population growing up in Bologna. And we can speak about the employment rate, because the employment rate is very important, because Bologna in Italy is at the first place in 2019, and is followed by Milan and Florence. And if you want to see the unemployment rate that have the metropolitan city of Bologna is 4.4. For give you a comparable with the United States, the average in Italy is 9.8%. and the USA is 3.5%. If you want to understand how much the people made in Italy yearly, usually is around 25,000 euro. So which is the common business is in, which is the principal industrial sector in Bologna? But we have a great trademark like this one that you see in the agricultural and zootechnical product. A lot of you probably recognize them, and is for sure like a packaging valley, because there is important company like Coesia and IMA for the automatic machine, and we have energy with the company called ERA. So it's very important, Bologna, for special trademark that everyone know, that is Ducati and Lamborghini, that still in Bologna. And some important trademark was founded here in Bologna, that was Maserati, Ducati, or Moto Morini. It's very famous in the world. Bologna is also famous for publishing. In fact, we have a different type of company, as you see, Il Mulino, Monriff Group, and that is the company that publish, for example, the Resto del Carlino or Il Giorno, and also have Enigmistica, that my grandmother go every weeks to buy it for improve their brain with the crossword. And we have Zanichelli, is also famous for engineering. In fact, I take this special number from the Chamber of Commerce in Bologna, and this number show us how the company are established in Bologna. In Bologna metropolitan, there is active around 83,000 company. Last year, we have a little negative growth rate, because it's minus 0.2%. And the principal sector in Bologna are commerce and building, and followed by manufacture. And if you want to see an important number, is nice to understand that usually the business that stay more time in life is in agriculture, after there is the industrial and the services. And we want to see also which is the best product that Bologna export in the world. And first place there is machinery and equipment, and is followed from after from motor vehicle, trailers, and semi-trailers. And after there is the clothing items. If you want to see some numbers about Bologna, as Anastasia already told you something about, is founded in the 1088, and yes, is the oldest university in the world. Is connected with the Johns Hopkins University, and as Anastasia told you, there was a very important people in the university. One student also was Dante. If you want to see some number about the Bologna education, is that in 2017, for example, the statistics tell us that the most of the students go in the cultural and letter field, or after is followed from engineering and architecture, and after there is economic, management, and statistics. So this is the three principal field that the student follow in Bologna. And I want to conclude that as Silvestri told us that optimism is come from knowledge. For sure, in Bologna, the knowledge come from the University of Bologna. So I studied there, and now I am here in America. We help European people to make business in United States. We did this from 8 years, and I am also a realtor in Florida. So I want to thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to speak about my city, and I want to thank you especially to Marina and Mario for giving me the opportunity. I have also some more numbers and sources, so this my slide is available if you need it. If you want it, you can ask to Marina and she gives to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, all the speakers. It's been a very interesting first attempt of these kind of events for the Tampa Bay chapter. And also thank you for all the attendees. Like I was mentioning before, in these difficult times, we are restructured a little bit the way that we do business, the way we create events. Of course, with the social distance, we need to create a different approach. And we have a series of webinars. We already did 7 webinars in the last weeks, touching different topics from immigration, from the government, from fiscal, from contracting, from relationship with the landlord. And we're going to keep having new webinars on different topics. So I really invite you to be updated with the website of the chamber and our social media to know what kind of webinar we do. Last evening, we did a very interesting masterclass with a Michelin star chef from Italy, and it was very, very interesting with over 60 people attending, with chefs, a blogger, and cooking at the same time together. I think that now more than ever, the role of the chamber as a beacon is important to keep together the community and also to work as a network to help each other, and all together we're going to be stronger and we're going to be able to pass this situation in a better way. Also, a lot of these new tools, it would be something that, of course, used for the emergency, for the situation, but also something that we're going to keep using in the future. And there's more and more idea coming on how to do things. And we are always open to receive suggestions from all our members, from all the different chapters. So, Mario, thank you again for organizing this. Thank you to all the speakers. It'll be very, very interesting. And thank you all to participate as attendee. Again, it's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you in the next events.